Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Tasty Tidbits podcast. Get ready to receive rich, well-seasoned, and tasteful tidbits to transform your life. Each week, Dr. Tiffany comes to you with inspirational encouragement and thought-provoking interviews to help revolutionize your walk with God. Are you hungry for more of His presence? Then get ready. And now, your host, author, intuitive life coach, and pastor, Dr. Tiffany Watkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Tasty Tidbits. I am your host, Dr. Tiffany Watkins, and I'm excited to have you here again on another episode. Now, for those that know me, you know that children are my heart. The young people are my heart. Even from, when I started doing teen pregnancy prevention, I always work with at-risk youth and just different things like that with the young people, because I believe that even though some may have a troubled start, they always have hope when you have those that are mentors there, those that are looking to push them forward, and just to have a little encouragement in them to let them know that they are great. And so today I have an awesome guest with us today, and his name is Aurelius Higgs. And how are you doing today, Marcus?
I'm doing well, Dr. Tiffany. Dr. Watkins, how do they call you?
You're good. You're good.
That's all right.
You're good.
It's great to be here.
I'm great to have you today, and I'm going to let the listeners know a little bit about you. And so Marcus, in his role as an educator and a mentor to young people for over 20 countries, Marcus has gained a deep understanding of how to bring forth our innate greatness through our relationships with ourselves and those around us. Currently, he supports his parents of teens using the Show Up framework. The purpose of this is to help parents to support their children during their first preteen identity breakup and thus bring out the best in their children. I love it. He works with the Certain Future to support parents of preteens 10 to 14 years old in maintaining meaningful relationships with the children during these identity breaking years. So again, Marcus, thank you for being a part of the podcast. Let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself before we get started.
All right, let's do it. I was born in California, but my mom's from the Philippines. My dad's from the Bahamas, as I was telling you. I studied communications at Oakwood College then in Alabama.
Okay.
And
so you've been all over the place.
Hey, wait for it now. Watch it now. You about to hear it. And then right after studying communication journalism, I went to South Korea as a English missionary teacher, Bible teacher. And then I say my worldview expanded. No animosity towards the church or anything. Still had a sincere connection with the divine. Right. And that actually informs my work now. But after being there for 5.5 years, I still wanted to continue teaching, and got my teaching degree inside Thailand. Went to Spain for some time. Well, first Saudi Arabia for 2.5 years with a petrol company. Then Spain, and then some more training, and then Thailand for 7 years. And now I'm back in the Bahamas with my aging parents. And that informs a little bit about my work also. Communication is my Dr. Elliot, God bless her soul. She's still alive, but God bless her soul. She said, your communication, the quality of your communication is directly related to the quality of your life. And that's why I love communication. And I really do sincerely love people. And what I do, I say it's human development, but I'm just focusing at a specific time when the formative years where you get your understanding of the world. And I used to teach high school. So I taught, grade 12 and grade 9, and I taught 5th graders. And this is what I felt called to.
Yes. And, I do substitute teaching. I used to do social work. But now, every now and then, because I'm so busy, when I have a chance, I'll still be involved with substitute teaching because, again, the young people are my heart. And so that's why I'm so glad to have you here today, because we're going to be talking about how to maintain meaningful relationships with our children. So what made you passionate about mentoring young people, and why is it an integral part of your vision?
Whitney Houston came to mind. But when I came out of the classroom, I I was a mentor for affluent families in Thailand. And my whole thing about being an educator, it's in the name. To educate and parent means to bring forth. And I felt like
Mhm.
traditional education wasn't doing that. And that's not knocking anybody in traditional education. Public education is needed.
Right.
Um, but I felt as though it was a bit more controlling for my style. And my
Mhm.
style is to notice the beauty that's within and creating the environment for that to flourish, to thrive, and come forth. Um, that happens in spaces where there's trust.
Mhm.
And in the short framework that I put together, it is helping the parent be a trustworthy present parent, especially when this kid is going through their first break-in. And what I mean by their first break-in is you are a doctor with a lot of wisdom, and our identity is in those formative moments, those intense
Mhm.
moments. And this
Mhm.
is the stage when they're transitioning from a dependent to an independent, and they're making sense of it. And our misunderstanding, and when I say our, I mean guardians, caregivers, parents, teachers, coaches, and so on. When we misunderstand this developmental stage, we somewhat hinder the kid. You know what I mean? There are
Mhm.
reasons for their high emotions. There are reasons that they seek risk. Like they're trying to figure themselves out. And all they need, Angela Duckworth says, is one psychologically wise adult in their life. They need someone to walk with them through the ideas to make sense of this. And
Mhm.
I want parents to do that. Not I want. I'm in alignment with the parents who want that
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
an earlier stage so that they can set the tone for when that preteen angst sets in, or when that time when the stakes are bigger. Um, why do I feel called to it? One thing I didn't say was me and my dad had a tumultuous communication experience growing up. Not experience. I mean, my parents divorced when I was 12. That's why I moved to the Bahamas. And there was no
Mhm.
physical abuse or anything like that. But he was trying to pursue his career. I'm a kid, 12 years old, making sense of the world myself. And he lacked the skills. Like he didn't have support in connecting with me. And while I
Mhm.
intuitively felt that, he was the adult in the room, and no shame and no blaming, no complaining towards him.
Right. Right.
But in retrospect, I think a lot of the work that I do is to be an advocate for kids and to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is how you can connect. I said a
Mhm.
lot there.
Oh no, no, I understand because that is so important. And I think about that even as you were talking, the many times that I've had to come across hundreds of young people and just be able to talk with them. And one of the things that I tell parents that is so important and any role model is that no matter what the young person shares with you, you cannot let your face show how shocked you are. It may be eating you up on the inside, but you still have to keep a neutral face, and be able to listen to understand where they're coming from. Because if they see the way you react on the outside, you may shut them down forever. Do you agree with that, Marcus?
Yes, and
Hmm.
and the and part is you can have a reaction to something, but
Hmm.
you could still let that kid hold their dignity
Hmm.
in experiencing that, and you could yeah, not shame them in it,
Right,
because
right.
they're having a human experience just like you. And
Hmm.
that's right. I've been on the opposite end of the table where it's just like, wow. And you're right. If they see your wild emotions, they're wondering how much can I share with them. But I
Hmm.
always try to communicate, hey, you can share all of you, and all of it will be accepted.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
I do have a response, I'm not trying to shut you down, but my
Hmm.
responses are valid also, but I'm trying to make space for you. So
Hmm.
I agree with you. I agree.
And and it's good the way you said it though, because then it makes you to understand now if they're sharing something with you. Okay, you may share something with me that may in the beginning be a shock to me, but I'm here to really understand and really here to support you, or even if you don't get to that in the beginning, maybe in the process of it, you'd be like, what happened? And let them know, well, that did shock me. I'm not going to tell you a story, but I am here to support you. I guess being able to validate their feelings, but like you said, also letting them understand that did shock you as well, but you're still there to support them and not shun them away. So I do understand what you're saying, Marcus. That's really good.
Yeah. You got to let them know that you're having a human experience. You know what I mean? And not everything is going to match up. Because I want to let parents also know, like, if they say something, if you're not in alignment with how you showed up, you also have space to go back to let them know, hey, I did this and I'm not trying to be like that. And I do want to maintain the openness that you have. And I appreciate you opening it up.
Good. And you mentioned earlier about identity breakup. Let us know a little bit more. Explain that a little bit more.
Everything that eventually grows must first break. And what I mean by that is they had this role and expectation as a dependent and as a kid. Their whole world is black and white. You used to tell them what the worldview was. When they come to this age, mistrust settles in because they're getting other perspectives of the world. And those other perspectives might be from other trustworthy adults in their lives, from also their peers. Unfortunately, the unique thing about this generation is social media. And actually, that's the unique thing about this stage. We'll come back to that. I'll put a pin in that. But while they're getting these other perspectives of the world, they're also naturally, this is the natural thing, they're being pushed into independence. I call it paternal energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be the father, but it's paternal energy that pushes them away. Paternal energy embraces them and says, you're close, you're secure, you're nurtured, you're seen. Paternal energy pushes them away and says, hey, you're independent, you're nurtured, you're seen, you can still come back to me. And I need you to do this on your own. Because that's how you create a holistic human being, a whole adult, because eventually they're moving to interdependence. That means I will take care of me to be in service to you, if you take care of you to be in service to me. Now, when that breaking happens, oftentimes kids are thinking, what's wrong with me? And I call it, they put up a wall of ice. It's an identity breaking. Second thing is that's I. C is collaborative mistrust. They don't know who to trust, right? Because they don't know what nuance is yet. They don't know, oh yeah, Auntie could have my best in mind, but she's telling me this. And then E is emotional management. The highs are highs and the lows are lows, biologically, because actually what biology is telling them is to test things, to take risks. We have to teach them how to take healthy risks, and we can come back to that again. But they're feeling emotions in more of a big way, because emotions are driving their desires. Emotions are telling them about their well-being, and they're trying to figure this out. In all of that, it sets up this wall of ice, this barrier. And then as parents, it's how do we show up to melt that wall of ice?
Yeah. And, and with all of those emotions going on during this time, they're dealing with puberty. That's another compound added to it, because they're going through all of the biological changes as well, which pushes those emotional changes a lot of times as well. And so you have to understand that, those biological changes are just as strong as those emotional changes that they're going through, especially during this time of preteens.
Yep. When you look at a grade 7, 8, like you see like this short little kid who hasn't gotten his spurt yet, and you see this tall man, and it's just like, y'all are in the same age, or in the same grade.
Yes. And one of the young guys, we have young men at our church, and so you can see them growing up. And one of them, you can tell they're enjoying their voice changing, because they're talking all the time. And they used to didn't talk all the time. So now they're talking all the time. And the mother was like, why are they talking so much? I said, because they hear their voice is getting deeper, and they love that, And she's like, that is right. I say, that's what's going through with them. And so even just recognizing the changes that, they are going through and being able to confirm the changes that they're going through and validate, who they are as a young person is very important. Because if we as parents, role models and mentors can continue to encourage them and validate them where they are, and that will be one of the biggest processes to them becoming a healthy adult. And preteens a lot of times become influenced by their peers, and so we as parents need to encourage them to make wise choices. So how can we encourage them to make wise choices and resist negative peer pressure? Because negative peer pressure is everywhere. So how are we able to do our part?
Pressure will always be there, because that's eventually what breaks you. However, it's how do you push back against the pressure? Because it's all forces in the language I'm using. So when I said social media, what adds a new variable to this whole thing of preteens and teenage angst, what is happening is that kids are forming their identities on the backsides of screens. And what I mean by that is in the likes, in the other thought that's happening inside digital spaces. That's where they're forming their identity. And that means when the screen goes off or when the laptop closes, the question is, who am I? A lot of this life is about managing stress, stress of just maintaining, of just living, but then stress that comes out the blue, or the stress to expand if we want to grow. I believe as humans, we're constantly growing. But if you don't know who you are, you can't manage that stress. Everything starts with identity. So to your question, how do we manage peer pressure? And you said negative peer pressure. The way you manage it is by starting with a strong identity. That's the S in the show up framework. Two ways come to mind. First way being is creating a collective identity, which is family culture. Culture is people like us do things like this. That's what Seth Godin calls it. And it's collective culture, because there's a church culture you have, there's a South Carolina culture you have, there's a family culture you have, a school culture. At home, you want to create a culture that, Higgs, this is what we do. Now you're going to do your own thing, but the remix, you're going to do the remix, but this is what we do, right? And living into that culture. The second thing is speaking to their virtues and values. Now, I'll explain this for the audience, but they're the 24 virtues. Have you heard of this? Virtues in action. Virtues in action are from positive psychology. They looked at ancient wisdom and modern science, and they said there are 24 characteristic traits that are with all people, all cultures, all religions, if you're human, you have these 24. And the traits are things like bravery, leadership, creativity, and so on, right? The thing about the virtues is that they work for the well-being of people. They work for the well-being of yourself or for the well-being of the community. There are 5 that are uniquely expressed in each person. When you speak to the goodness of people, you bring in their awareness to, hey, there's something good in you, right? The values are the thing that's important to them. They might value pets, or they might value finances. They might value family or friends. Like what people value is unique to them. What's important to you is not important to me, and that's all right. So when I reaffirm your virtues and values, and then I give you evidence and examples of that, I'm attention or awareness on the outside, bringing your awareness to something that's beautiful inside you. And I'm starting with your identity. That's where it starts. And then everything else comes from identity.
That's so good. That's so good. And, that's so important. And, even when you were talking, I was just thinking about the communication during the processes of the things that they're going through and the things that the children are dealing with. We have to be able to maintain that open communication with the teenagers. So as they're growing and wanting to pull back and desiring more independence, what is some of the best ways to maintain that open communication?
All right. So I'll say it like this first. Oftentimes, the reason we shut down, let me give you a metaphor. It's like if you had a house and every time you invited this person in your house, they started flipping over stuff or they started criticizing your carpet. They started talking about the pictures on the wall, knocking them down and whatnot. And every time they left your house, it was dirty or it looked more messed up than when they came. You wouldn't invite that person in your house, right?
Right.
What we do when in conversation is we walk with people through their minds. And when I'm in your mind, I want to leave such a good impression. And when I say impression, I'm going to speak the truth while I'm in there because I'm building trust.
Mm-hmm.
That when I leave, you're thinking, oh, look, Marcus left me some flowers in this house. Oh, look, Marcus left something for me to eat inside this house.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to open up to you as much, quite honestly. And the reason is, again, if that mistrust happened earlier, they're trying to feel out who they can trust and who they can't trust. And they're going to be sparks of opening up. Like every relationship and every dynamic is different. So I don't want to be a doomer and be like, it's going to be tough, but they're going to open up now and again. And when they do open up now and again, that's when you lean in and you actually make a deposit in there to be like, hey, I'm a trusted advisor. I knew you before all of this happened. I'm be present while it is happening, and I'm going to be here afterwards. But that's the whole thing. Trust is built over time. So you actually have a head start ahead of all the peers, ahead of all the social media and so on. If you keep your stuff together, and that's the work I do. I help you keep your stuff together so that you can be a trustworthy present parent in your child's life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's good to understand, and for the parents to understand or the caregivers to understand is that if the young person in your life, your child or your guardian, the child that you're looking over, if they don't share everything with you or things that you think they should have shared with you, you can't take it personal. Like you said, you just have to begin to lean in when they do share what they share, because that builds their trust and they know who they can come back to when they really need to come back. And just being very observant and noticing what's going on around them and being sensitive to their needs, and not lambashing them because they did not share a particular issue with you. If it's not if it's life threatening, that's something different. But if it's just simple things and, little things that, they maybe just want to talk to a cousin about or auntie about or their friend about, because again, that's the age where, like you said, there's so many other relationships that are influential to them. And so they're going to be, sharing information and being able to talk with others. And if that person is a trusted adult and that person, don't get offended. Be thankful that they are able to open up and share with someone. And that person, most of the time should be positive. But if they're not, and you find out, there's a way that you have to be wise in how you come back to the young person, because it could be detrimental.
It's worth noting that if they do share with someone else, we're not expected as primates. There's this book. I'm all over the place. Hold on, let me settle. There's this book called Mothers and Others, and it's a concept called alloparenting. We were expected to raise our kids in community. And the thing is, you can't meet all your kids' needs, even though you are a trusted present parent. Meaning, you do want that auntie, you do want that uncle, that you trust, that they can turn to, and that they feel like, you know what, I can open up about this. Now, you may talk to them in the background. Again, some things they may ask to keep confidential, respect that. But it was beautiful when you said, don't take it personal and understand they may want to seek other advice, and keep your tabs open on that advice. And when they open up to you, be there.
That's so important because, I tell parents all the time, at least they are sharing, sometimes the young people, that I deal with, sometimes they'll come to me and the parents will be around and they'll say something off the wall to the parent. And, with me, I'm, they're like, why would you? And I say, well, well, if this happens, you need to do so and so and so and so. That's understandable, trying to understand, because at least they're coming, for information, and you have the opportunity to give them the right information. And if they feel close enough to be able to open up to you, you have to be able to say, okay, well, at least she can answer the question, and they feel comfortable enough to open up, and again, not take it personal, because sometimes our reactions, and I've seen it, our reactions will allow an individual to go to someone else because they get a different reaction, but still the truthful answer. So, it may be in the way that we react that causes them to go to other or the sources, but those other sources still give them wise information, but in a different form or in a different way,
different perspective. Yeah.
Yes. So that's so important, and I believe that's so important that parents understand that we do. They say it takes a village to raise our children, and so it's so true, and as they go to school,
I was gonna say it takes a village to support a parent too.
Yeah, well, that's true. And so one of the things that I did notice, and it's so important, and that I think that needs to be brought out here, is that when I would work with young people, we would have like parent meetings, about the children, let's come and talk, to get to help you, just like things like this, to be able to help you to understand where your child is coming from, or to be able to understand that they may have things going on in their life, but, respect their support systems and things like this. But when you would have the meetings, Marcus, a lot of times the parents wouldn't even show up. And so it's important, parents, listeners, if you're a parent, it's important that you show up when it comes to concerning your children as much as you can, if it's going to be an advocate for them, because you don't know what type of information that you will receive that may help to push that young person forward.
We say in communication, you cannot not communicate. And by taking inaction, it communicates a message. In the show up framework that I do have, when they start to pull away, it's the little consistent things. And what do I mean by that? If you could set up 5 minutes a day or 20 minutes a week or something of what we say, this time is yours. You can do what you want, but you have my full attention. Could be a walk around the block, could be a walk down to the park and back. And you can decompress about anything you want. But in that little action, it shows them you care about me and you have attention. And you make time for the things you care about. So when we say show up, it just means show you care.
That's so good. And that's the next thing that I was going to ask you, is what effective strategies can parents employ, to build trust with their preteens during a phase marked with mood swings and unpredictable behaviors? Because you as preteens, you're going to experience this a lot.
Yeah. Well, it is you being regulated. Because you're setting the tone, you're setting the vibe as the adult in the room. Right. One strategy is first understanding where it's coming from. Some preteens, what they do is, like when you're on a roller coaster and they put that safety bar on you and you shake the safety bar. The reason you shake it is because you're trying to make sure it's safe. And that's what they do to the adults in their lives. They shake the adults in their lives to be like, can I trust this one? That's one idea. The second idea is, when kids are being dysregulated and they're going through their stressors, they have a problem in their life. It's called collaborative problem solving. Kids think and look at themselves, say, what's wrong with me? And it's like, hey, nothing's wrong with you. It's either you don't have skills or you're not supported. Kids think that adults are born with all the skills they have. It's like, no, we fell on our face too. And there was someone who walked with us with these skills to develop. And then there's a framework to do it, active listening, so that we then work on the solution together. The parent then also speaks about, the expectations and the boundaries of how we're going to do this, so that they know they're not going it alone. What else? Sometimes kids are disrespectful, like straight up. I'm not
Yeah.
going to sugarcoat it. And I mean, there are other, again, frameworks and ways to address that. I say all emotions are allowed. You're allowed to feel what you feel, not all behaviors. And it's having conversations about that also, and not just conversations, like putting it into practice. Let's try this going forward. So, a lot of things come to mind. With the general question, that was a general answer, but yeah.
Yeah. And it is so important I think out of all, they have to feel comfortable. They have to be secure, feel like they are secure. And that, like you said, they have that trust factor. You may not agree with them, and they understand that in everything. The whole world, there's things that we see now that, everybody's not going to agree, but they have that safe place. They have that place of trust. They have that place of where, I know where I can come to, if I need to. And sometimes they need the space, because we all need our space. And we have to respect, we have to respect, the children's space as well at times, because the old way of being raised up, you don't have no space. This is my house. You're going to do what I tell you to do, blah, 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 blah. But, sometimes the children, they need their space as well. They need their quiet time. They need their alone time to be able to process things, just as we as adults need that. And so I believe that we need to understand that as well, and not, take it as the child is being disrespectful all the time. Maybe they need that time out, that time to just process things on their own and calm down, and let them come back and you talk about it together.
That's right. Yeah. Just one quick thing on that trust. Trust has three things. First, it's always tell the truth. All growth starts with the truth. They may not see it as true, but I mean, you have to speak your truth, right? The second one is that it makes sense, or it's organized. Like stuff that's arbitrary or just out of the blue, people start to think you're flaky. So start with the truth, make sense in their mind. And third, they have to know that you care. Like they have to know that you're acting in their well-being, or for the collective group well-being. And if you can communicate those things, that's where trust starts, and then trust is built over time.
Yes, that's so good. So good. Thank you so much, Marcus, for just being able to give us your wisdom and your knowledge on being able to, be able to cause the youth to be able to trust in us a little bit more, building a little bit more trust within the parent and the young person, or the caregiver, or whoever it is. And we have to be able to do that as parents and understand that. And there's no way you can do it all in one podcast session. There's no way you can do it, in, a year. It takes a lifetime. It really takes a lifetime of that child, that individual, to be able to build that communication. Because think about it, those that are married, it takes, even though they've been married for a long period of time, they still are learning each other. They're still learning communication. And so it's the same thing with our children. It's the same thing with the relationships with the people that we have on our jobs, or our colleagues, or wherever we are. We're constantly learning how to communicate with the ones that we are around. And so it is the same way with the young people that we deal with. And so we shouldn't get frustrated where we feel like at times that we may have failed at one area. You just stop, pick back up, and revamp, and say, okay, I've learned what not to do,
Yeah.
So you have to be able to do that, and do it, not taking it personal. That's one thing I keep saying over and over, not taking it personal, but being open to change, and being open and willing to understand where that young person is coming from, and keeping hope and pushing them, and being creative, even in disappointment with some of the things that young people may do. We need to make sure that in that disappointment, that we are not condemning the young person, because condemning them a lot of times will make them go and revert to the negative behaviors. But if we express our disappointment in a way that they know we're disappointed, but there's still love there, and that we know that, okay, you messed up this time, but you'll do better the next time, versus you keep doing the same thing over. You're just like your father. You're just like this. That part of communication will push them further away than drawing you closer together. Do you agree with that, Marcus? What do you think about that?
So I'll put it in the context of identity. To be human is to err. But the beautiful thing is we don't just stop there. We grow. To be human is to grow. The way we grow is, again, we're broken and then we fill the broken spaces and we're made stronger. That's just how we work out. And this is, again, building trust, because when you're interacting with a kid and you do something that's out of pocket for you, or you don't want to show up like that, you do something that's out of alignment with your identity, you show them how to repair and reconnect. Say, hey, I did something and that's not the type of person I want to be. I made it right. It could be apologizing. That could be restoring some money or something. And then third, this is what I promise to do going forward. You're showing them that you can make mistakes. Adults do make mistakes, and we bring it back together. So now they know, hey, it's possible for me to do that too. You can't be what you can't see. And if you see adults repairing and reconnecting, getting up and moving on, then you know it's possible for you too. So instead of just telling them that, again, come back to their identity to be like, hey, you did something. Is this the type of person you want to be? Because you get to own that, and I will respect that. But I will have to have boundaries in what I do in our house. Yeah. But is this the type of person you want to be?
So good. So good. Thank you so much, Marcus, for being a part of the podcast today. We have so thoroughly enjoyed you being here. And I know some of the listeners want to, especially the parents that are listening, would love to find out more information about what you have been talking about. So what's the best way that they're able to reach you and contact you?
Go to marcushiggs.com, marcushiggs.com. I'm doing some workshops over the summer, and you can reach out to me there. There's a form just to contact me, a little bit about what I've talked about, the show up framework. I'm looking for also beta testers to test out this program. So you can reach out to me in that regard. It's a 6-month program. I'm bringing in some experts to actually speak on this and make it actionable inside your life, or on LinkedIn. That's where I am. I'm not so much on other social media channels, but LinkedIn and my website. That's where you can find me.
Great. And listeners, we will definitely have Marcus's information in the show notes so that you'll be able to click and go right to him, and make sure to go and check out his information. And I know that it will be beneficial to you. And we're so glad to have you again, Marcus. Thank you for being a part today.
It's been my pleasure.
Yes. And listeners, until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Tasty Tidbits. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. To learn more about Dr. Tiffany, check her out on Linktree at dr.tiffanywatkins, or visit her website, iridescencebytiffany.com. Until next time, stay blessed.